Hey. Dr. Jonathan Shepard here, Chief Medical Director of Hope Health Systems. It is so good to be with you this evening, coming with a special edition of Ask the Doctors. I know we missed you last week. So much has been going on, and I will make reference to that as we go throughout the show. But wanted to come on today, had some special arrangements to have this show today because we care about you and we care about your children. And so this show today is going to be dedicated to our children. Again, Ask the Doctors is a show that is sponsored by my company, Hope Health Systems. And I'm proud to be, again, the chief medical director of that organization, mental health organization located in the Baltimore area, Baltimore, Maryland. And if you're in need of any mental health services, we'll do you some good. Come on, and I'll even put the banner up. You can go to our website and you can even sign up for a referral if you know some persons who's in need of mental health services. So many of us are in need of mental health services right now. The pandemic has been a tremendous weight on us. People are suffering from anxiety, depression, even post traumatic stress disorder, even from other disorders that could really affect how you think, how you operate, how you function, even psychotic disorders, even substance use disorders, addiction, all of that. We can help you in those areas. So check us out. There's our website down below. And again, if we can be of any service to you, we would greatly do our best, I should say, to help you. And I think you'll be greatly benefited by our services. So today I have with me two special guests. We're going to jump right on in because our topic today is so important. Our children are our legacy. Our children are the people who we want to make sure survive. We want to make sure we take care of them. They're vulnerable. And we want to make sure that this particular pandemic that we're facing right now does not affect them in such a great way that it will traumatize them for the rest of their lives. I'll repeat what I just said. If we're not careful, this pandemic could literally shape the future of our children and most likely will in some way. And what I mean by that is that the after effects, the children who've been ill, the children who have had to suffer the side effects of being ill, or even the losses that they have encountered. And we'll talk about some of these things that our children and parents have faced today. And so I am privileged that I have a noted pediatrician with me today, Dr. Malika Graves, who is in the Los Angeles area. I met her through my mentor, Dr. Terrence Rohn, and has been a beneficial blessing to me as I have learned from her from being on various different panels. And so she's going to be with me today. And then I have my own sister-in-law, Stacy Shepard, who is the mother of my niece and nephew. She joined our family over 16 some years ago, and officially, I'll say. And both of them are going to be with me. So I'm going to bring on Dr. Malika Graves. She's going to join me. And how you doing, Dr. Graves?
Hello. Doing well, thank you. And how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I am doing okay. I'm just glad to be here a little
Yes,
later on the East Coast than it is where you are on the West Coast.
right. Yes.
but
Still
you know,
bushy tail right now.
yeah, but I am so glad that I'm here. I was looking at, wow, some of our visitors who are already on here. One of our program directors is on already, Miss Woomy, and Abriana Scott is here. Glad to see you, Dr. Monique Campbell. Yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, so tell the people a little bit about yourself, Dr. Graves.
So I am a general pediatrician, and so for those who don't know, a general pediatrician is similar to like your family doctor, your primary care doctor for children. So I am the one that sees them starting from birth, and I see up to age 21. And so I do have patients that on that whole spectrum, and so we're just very much wanting to promote health and wellness in children in all aspects: physical, emotional, and mental health. And I have been a pediatrician for 8 years, medical doctor for 10, and I was also a teacher and school administrator. So have about 20 years of basically working with children and families. So that's kind of what's a little different for me, is I could cook a little detour outside of school and then went into teaching and then went and became a pediatrician. So definitely have a very large heart for children and families, and just wanting to promote health and wellness, especially in children of minorities, who are minorities.
Wow, I did not know that about your teaching and education
Yeah.
background. That's
Mhm.
awesome. I know we were sharing a little bit earlier that you attended Michigan State for
Yes,
medical
sent
school.
in Michigan State for medical school, and then my residency was University of California, Irvine, and that was training at UCI as well as Children's Hospital, Orange County. So that's where I had my training.
Wow. As I can see,
Yeah.
as I said, we have a noted pediatrician with us today. And so I am so glad that she is here with us. And
I'm glad
again,
to be here.
yeah, and again, made special preparation because I didn't want any other pediatrician besides you. I'll be
Thank
honest with you,
you. Thank
because
you.
I know your work and I know your ability to be able to explain to people what is going on. We're just going to have a dialogue
Mhm.
between the two of us, and then we'll invite Stacy on. Uh,
Sure.
uh, so let's just get started. COVID-19 pandemic, it has affected everyone. No one has not been touched by this pandemic.
Right.
Just tell us a little bit about what you've been seeing in your office since we started with the pandemic.
So the pandemic has been a challenge to adults, but also very much so a challenge to children. And I have seen firsthand how they've been affected. And the way you mentioned the mental health piece at the beginning, that has been huge in my
Wow.
patients. I've seen so many children with new onset of anxiety, new
Wow.
depression due to isolation, fear, just getting back into routines. If there was some underlying like depression that happened before, it was just even more so magnified. So seeing a lot of mental health issues, a lot of increases in obesity. Seen
Mhm.
some kids that have gained, children who have gained 40 and 50 pounds in 1 year. And that is
Oh,
in no way an exaggeration. And
wow.
these children are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So the effect has been huge. And then it's also the educational effect as well, of being some loss of learning due to challenges with the learning at home. We've seen
Mhm.
that. And then I've also seen children who have been affected by COVID-19 infection, who
Mm,
have had long COVID.
mm,
I've had children that had MISC. Some children that just have lost, are orphans because of loss of parents,
mm.
and have lost grandparents. So, also children that are now dealing with grief and loss, in addition to changing from different households and different routines and things like that. So, kind of seen a lot of the different aspects of COVID. But then on the flip side, I've also seen children that have had COVID and
Mhm.
have not experienced very many, side effects or issues. I've kind of seen a little bit of everything.
Okay. You
Yeah.
mentioned an acronym MIC. Tell the people what that is.
So that's multi-system inflammatory syndrome.
Okay.
And that is a syndrome that affects mostly all the organs of the body.
Mhm.
It causes inflammation of the heart, inflammation of the vessels, and it can cause them to be very sick. And it usually happens very quickly. And it's something that happens after an initial COVID infection, and usually from 2 to 6 weeks after COVID infection. And
Mhm.
sometimes with that COVID infection, it may not be a severe infection. You may not even know that you had COVID, but for some reason the body develops an inflammatory response that is quite serious, and many children end up in the ICU because of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so signs and symptoms of that, or if they have
Mhm.
like conjunctivitis, red eyes, red lips, red tongue. Usually there's a rash associated, fever, usually greater than 5 days, swelling of like
Mm.
the hands and feet. Sometimes there's pain. These kids are like tired and they appear sick. And so those are some of the signs. And sometimes there's vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea. Yeah, so those little ones are pretty sick.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow, that's something.
It is.
You're answering, some of the questions we talked about as to how this virus affects the children, and
Mhm.
so what you're letting the people know is that it's not a harmless virus.
Right.
That sometimes it will be some viruses. I'm sorry, there'll be some effects that literally the children can have what we call multisystemic inflammatory disease or failure, as you just described. And so that's
Mhm.
something very serious. So thank you for going through that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of our people who are going to be commenting. And when you see me looking down, I'm sharing this. I want you to share this information with your networks. All right. So those who are out there, I'm just going to say it publicly. You need to share this episode. This episode literally could change your life today. It literally could help the family. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to bring my sister on,
Okay.
and so she's going to provide that parental point of view. So, are children less likely to catch the COVID-19 than adults? I've heard that.
So when we first found out about it initially, it seemed like there was a less of an infection rate with COVID. But now with the Delta virus, it seems like at least that children are as likely to be able to contract the illness.
Okay. All right. All right.
Excuse
That's a
me.
good.
So
That's
they
good.
are so they are able, and they are able to spread. The spread is a little less, but there still can be transmission from children to adults.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I want to bring my sister on. I want her to come on in, and she's going to provide a point of view that is just so crucial to where parents are. And I thought that would be so appropriate to have her to come. And this is my
Sure.
sister. This is my sister Stacy. How you
Good-
doing, Stacy?
Doing well. Good evening. Hi,
Good
brother.
evening.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Dr. Malika.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Happy to have
glad.
you.
glad you're here. Tell the people just a little bit about yourself, and we want to continue the conversation.
Awesome. So I am the lovely Dr. Shepherd's sister-in-law. I've been married to his brother for 16 years. We have two beautiful
Hi.
children. We have a teenage girl and we have a son who is under 12. So these are the perfect ages to be talking
Mhm.
about the vaccine. So
Right.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of this. We're both working professionals working in our field, and we represent I would say the educated, healthy skeptic, the person that wants the information and they want to make the best decision for themselves and for their family.
That's
That
great.
is
So
good. Excellent.
well, I love that how you describe that. So why don't you take that perspective that you just described, and let's ask Dr. Graves the question that you may want to ask to start out with.
Okay, awesome. So I would say, and this is where I am as a parent, I can say that the questions I may ask may be some that I've already gotten an answer to, but I
Mhm.
still think they're really good for discussion. And then it
Absolutely.
may be a question that I'm still kind of like, I'm still thinking about that one. So
Okay.
Absolutely.
the first question I have is really, can you break down the difference between a vaccine being approved for emergency use by like the FDA versus being like fully approved? Is there a difference?
Hmm. So they're still gathering more data. However, with emergency use, it's found to be safe.
Okay.
So they are gathering more data, more people who are receiving the vaccine, but safety has already been established with emergency use. And that's
Okay.
about what I can say on that one.
Got it. And
Yeah.
my reason for asking that is that I think there's a perception that if something doesn't have an FDA approved stamp on it and that it's approved for emergency use, some people may think, well, this is experimental.
Right.
And I may be willing to experiment on myself, but I'm not willing to experiment with my children.
And I could totally understand that.
Yes.
And what is and that's a good point that you make. But one thing that we are as pediatricians who, like, say for vaccines, they say we're not new to this. We're true to this. We're giving vaccines all day, every day, and having the questions of giving vaccines and talking to parents that some that don't believe in vaccines at all. And so for this vaccine in particular, the vaccine science has just really come such a long way since vaccines were initially created. And we have so much knowledge already of how vaccines work, the components of vaccines, that to consider it like some parents are concerned that it's new, but there's all these different components that are not new that have come together to work against this disease that we're trying to get rid of. And then in the midst of taking this data, we're taking data from all the adults in addition to the other children in the adolescent group, and then also applying that to the new studies that were done with the 5 to 11-year-old children. And so there were 4,500 kids in that study. And so It was a good amount where 2/3 actually got the vaccine and 1/3 they got placebo. So it wasn't, it wasn't like 10,000 or 50,000, but remember, we still have that information. And we also have the information of the vaccines that have been given since we started with vaccines.
Right.
So all of that data was included to determine the safety and efficacy of this vaccine. Also, for vaccines, they were monitored for, I think the study was like almost, let's see, how many months was it? Like about 4 months. And most vaccines will provide a reaction if there is going to be a reaction. Sometimes it's within days, but it's at the most it's 6 weeks. So these children were monitored and there were no issues of anaphylaxis, no myocarditis, no
Okay,
serious
that's what, can we pause there?
Yeah.
Because the myocarditis was one thing that I actually jotted down, because I did read a few things, and even on the CDC website, it talks about how there's a greater risk was observed. I know for the Moderna vaccine, which is, I think, why it wasn't immediately approved for children. I don't know if it's the same for Pfizer, but there was a noted increase in the occurrence of this inflammatory heart effect. And what caught my attention was that it was higher in males, adolescent males. And that's our baby. That's the one that is not vaccinated in the family. Okay. So I was particularly, because he was looking at the rest of us like, when am I going to get mine? Like, he felt out.
Right.
And so that did catch my attention. So I just want to ask if we could pause there and talk about that, what that risk really means.
So myocarditis is very scary to parents. And, it's sounding like you're talking about the heart and the heart being affected. And so myocarditis is inflammation of the heart. And it's not something that's only associated with vaccines. You can get myocarditis just from almost any type of a virus can potentially cause a myocarditis, and COVID causes myocarditis. So when thinking about the vaccine, don't think only of the vaccine causing a myocarditis, but a potential COVID infection could cause that too.
That's right.
The incidence of myocarditis is very low. in children, but because it is an effect that's been observed, we definitely need to talk. We definitely need to talk about. But it's a very small amount. So even in the young people, like I believe the 16 and up group, it was like a amount like 600 in like a million or something. It was like the numbers, like one, or you can think about 1 in 20,000. And then those cases of myocarditis are very mild, lasting 1 to 2 days with complete resolution is what they have found. So these things they've had it, but it has been mild. So one thing for the 5 to 11-year-olds, they tested, like I said, it was about 4,500 or like 3,000 in that study. So if myocarditis is found in 1 in 20,000, then there's still some more cases to be had to see if maybe there may be even one case of myocarditis, or is that age range kind of be spared from even having that small adverse reaction. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
That's good. So you mentioned another side effect. And again, this goes along with what we've been talking about as far as side effects. I'm thankful that you mentioned that it could also not just be a side effect of the vaccine. It could be a side effect of someone having the actual infection.
Yes.
And actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's more of a risk of having it if you have the true infection versus the vaccine. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay.
That is true. So the risks of myocarditis in infection is higher than the risk of receiving it from vaccine.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Now you mentioned also something about anaphylaxis. So some of our folks they may not know what that term is. So describe what anaphylaxis is.
So anaphylaxis is a severe allergic response and is usually immediate. It includes like your throat closing. Sometimes there's some facial edema or lip swelling. Sometimes it can even affect your heart rate, your ability to breathe, because this reaction is so severe. Mm-hmm. And having an anaphylactic reaction to a vaccine is a contraindication for getting the COVID vaccine, because that is not something that you want to do if that's been your experience. Anaphylaxis to vaccines are rare, but that is like one of the reasons why we would say you should not get that vaccine, no matter how old you are.
That's one of the reasons why I believe they have you wait after you get the vaccine.
They do. They have you wait 10 to 15 minutes after to be able to be observed to see if there's any reactions that occur. And if you are in that situation, then you would get an EpiPen, you would get emergency care immediately. But that is the reason why that wait period is there.
Yeah. Gotcha. Stacey, I got one more question, then I'm going to turn it back over to you from the parental point of view. There's something that's called V-Safe. Mm-hmm. V-Safe. And I noticed it. I had not noticed it when I got my first 2 shots for the mRNA vaccine. Actually, I got the Moderna dose.
I do too.
Yeah, back in January and February. Mm-hmm. But I noticed the V-Safe when I went and got the booster almost 2 weeks ago. Can you tell the people about what is V-Safe? Because people see that sign when they go get the vaccine.
And I actually signed up for V-Safe. And so V-Safe is a way to track any symptoms that you are having in relation to your vaccine. So it's very easy to enroll in. You can actually even go to the CDC website to enroll in. Usually, like you were mentioning, when you take your vaccine, there's something that has you enroll, and you'll need to use your smartphone. I believe it's an app on the phone. App on your phone. And so they actually send you messages after you put in, like when you received your vaccine, like, how are you feeling today? Are you okay? A check-in like in 6 weeks. You feeling any side effects or any reactions that you think may be associated to the vaccine. And if you have, and for our kids that are 5 to 11, we're still gathering this data. They may even call you about that, about those responses, so they can continue to gather more data.
Wow.
So
wow,
that's good. You can self-report those any symptoms that you may be having. or you or not. Because when they asked me about mine, are you okay? Yes, and that was that. Yeah.
Right. No, that's good to know. It brings some comfort to people that we're following you even
Hmm.
after you leave from the 15 minutes.
Yes.
So I encourage people, when you see that sign, whatever it may be, the website, go there, enroll in it. As Dr. Graves has said, it may be an app. And answer the phone. I know some of us don't want to answer the phone because it's those car security folks.
Oh,
Check it
the
and see.
warranty.
There we go. Car warranty. There we go. But yes, let's answer the phone for the V-Safe folks.
Right.
Stacy, what else? What else have you been thinking about? And actually, I have some questions for you too, but I want you to get your questions out first.
Well, first I feel like I already feel a difference this time around when the vaccine rolled out for the children. I
Mm,
feel like cooler heads are prevailing, even in the rhetoric around the vaccine, and
mm,
really just the information around the vaccine. And I feel like the level of care is different because
Hmm.
we are dealing with our children. So I do feel
Yes.
like there is more of a bedside manner, if you will.
Hmm.
So I'm happy that I at least feel the difference in the rollout of the vaccine for children than I did,
mm,
obviously, when it was rolled out for the adult population. I feel like that was a bit of a dumpster fire that just got out of control, and we're still fighting it.
Yeah.
But hopefully, for our children, we can be more mature about it, because
Hmm.
I do ultimately, I have compassion for people and parents and wherever people are along the spectrum in terms of their decision making,
Yes.
because I feel like if you're not going to mandate a vaccine, and you're not going to pass down these mandates from literally your government that are enforced with the weight of your government behind it, you know it might be unfortunate, but the vaccine becomes a sales job. You have to sell people on the vaccine. You have to sell people on the safety of it and sell them on the benefits of it versus the risks. And
True.
so I feel like forums like this
mhm.
help, hopefully they will help the sales pitch, to our community. Um, and so
Yeah.
I feel like where we are as a family, if I could just share, we weren't the first in line for the vaccine. As soon as it
Mhm.
became available, we were not the first in line. We weren't the second or third in line. And but
Where
we
were you in line?
look, I don't know, because I
In
had a
the back
question.
somewhere. No. Yeah.
Listen, somebody said, look, everybody who hasn't got vaccinated by now, I blame you for the Delta variant. I said, well, when was the cutoff? Okay, when was the cutoff for me, before I don't share in any of the blame? I want to know, what was the date? What was the date I had to take the vaccine so that
Right.
I could be blameless?
Right.
But so I I feel like the conversation has changed now that we're talking about our babies. But
Mhm.
we weren't the first in line, but we were monitoring. We were constantly educating ourselves on the changes, because this is another thing, y'all. Um, everybody was learning, including the science community. So you
Mhm.
are literally administering drugs to us as you are continuing to learn. I know it wasn't new, but this COVID-19 strain was new.
Yes. Yes.
And I come from the corporate world where we make massive changes that affect hundreds of thousands of people. And in order to carry out something that massive in an organization, you need change management working for you. You have to manage communications, manage expectations. And so I do feel like, to some degree, I feel like in many ways, the expectations of people were very low, And in some ways they were very high. So when I say that, I mean, I feel like most people are intelligent people. And if you just give them good information, they can make decisions. But I felt like at times you would have people in the medical community talking down to people, and kind of comparing everyone who had questions to conspiracy theorists, or, I saw a lot of that.
It was so challenging.
It was, yes,
Those first few months when everything was kind of coming out at the same time. I understand the frustration of parents because, I mean, even for the medical community, we were doing a lot of learning ourselves, trying to get the best data that we could to give the best answers to parents. And for my case, for parents, to other people, is just for their patients when things were changing in real time.
Right.
And so and being revealed in real time. And so the part that was challenging to parents is actually kind of seeing the process that development, how this development happens. And so usually what you see is the end. You see the end of it.
Right.
Here it is. This is this. We've done all this. We've had this disease for however long, and all of it was happening all at once.
Exactly.
And so we were trying to present what we could, but then there was the politicization of it. Did I say that right? But anyway, the political aspect of it that also caused things to be derailed. But what's good, like you're saying, is that we have more data, and we have more numbers showing that these vaccines do work.
Exactly.
And the information that we have so far is that the children, when they receive the vaccine, they're presenting an antibody response that is equal to the adolescents and to the adults, with a dosing that has been figured, that has been determined from the Pfizer vaccine. So those are all good things, that this is a vaccine that is effective, and that it is safe. And so that is great. And the thing is, with parents, they want to protect their children. And the main thing is they do not want to do harm, and they don't want to feel like they are inflicting harm. I mean, just the conversations that I had on the vaccines that we've been given for 20 and 30 years, still there's a component of, should I give them right now? Do they have to get them all? Is this going to hurt? So it's always going to be that, for parents.
And I'm glad you mentioned that.
When you're having to say yes for something.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because my children were already due for like 15 vaccines. So to put COVID on top of that, I was like, wait, they didn't get all the vaccines when they were like 5. What is this?
And since you mentioned that, you can get your COVID vaccine and all the vaccines at the same time.
Yes, right. I read that, right? But at the same time, I think there are levels, because as we are becoming, as we have more access to information, and, people becoming more maybe health conscious or holistic, they're thinking the way that parents are thinking is, first, is it safe? Then the next question they're asking, well, do I have to do it? And then the next question they're asking is, well, do I have to do it now? Mm-hmm. And then the next question they're asking is, what happens if I don't do it now? Right. And so we need people to walk along that journey with us, and be patient with us through each of those levels.
Well,
no,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing is that with what we found with COVID is that it's just it's kind of random. Mm-hmm. And to hear that from a pediatrician, but it's the truth. We don't know who out of the children's going to get the MIS-C. It is something that is rare. It's not one we're going to say, 1 in 10. No, that's not the numbers. It's like a 1%, or even less than 1%. But who is that? We don't know. And that's something we want to prevent by preventing the spread of illness. We want to prevent severe illness. We want to prevent long COVID. These are things we want to do for our children so that they can continue to be healthy and not experience this thing. And we don't know, out of all the kids, which one will get these get these illnesses or even suffer death, which is rare, but has happened this year. So the thing that we do as pediatricians is we just want to protect them all the best way we can. And then we do that through vaccines because of how vaccines have worked for those other illnesses that vaccines have prevented. And the one I like to think about, because I've had so much experience with it, is chickenpox. You had chickenpox yourself. You know how miserable that was.
Right.
Like you didn't die from it, but you were in misery for a good 2 weeks. Because of that vaccine, that also would kill like 150 per year. We don't even see that anymore.
Yeah.
Like I had a kindergarten class where half the class had half the class had chickenpox. The other half had chickenpox 2 weeks later. And so I was able to even diagnose it, where we don't even see that.
Wow.
In residency anymore.
That's
or
true.
I'm glad I actually just read about
wards,
that, doctor.
You don't even see it. And it's because that's the vaccine that they get at 1 year old, and at 4 year old they get their booster, and we just don't see that anymore.
That's
and
true.
So we are preventing that illness. We're preventing them from going through that. And we're also preventing any of the severe disease that happens as well. So it's just thinking about if we can prevent these major illnesses that can these serious consequences that can happen, then we want to do that.
I want to ask this question. One of our viewers asked, and that was Otis Dupree. And I believe Otis works in the educational system. He asked this question: should school personnel advise parents about getting the vaccine, or should we take a neutral stance? Here's as to what you all think.
I can comment on that. It depends, because I have one child in private school and I have one child in public school. And while I have not seen any mandates in public school here, I have seen it in my daughter's private school. And it was interesting. We made the decision to get her vaccinated when my husband and I got vaccinated. All three of us went together and got vaccinated. And maybe, I don't know, it was maybe a week or two later, her school issued a statement that we're going to require that all students and faculty and staff who are eligible for the vaccine, you must be vaccinated by this date. And it was a couple months notice, but it was still a mandate that was issued by her private school. And they did it based on, all of the data surrounding the Delta variant and how the virus was mutating. And I mean, we had meetings upon meetings, parent meetings about it, but it's a very different experience in private school versus public school. So I can say I'm kind of in the middle of those two worlds, and understanding how they operate.
So if I would say, as with free speech, you can say, kind of what you want to say, but if you are going to be needing to answer people's questions, that's a little more difficult. And that's something that, especially I as a pediatrician like to be able to answer those questions that parents have. But if you're for it, and your school doesn't have a policy, you can speak to it, but then that means that someone else can also speak to the other viewpoint as well. So in that case, I guess I will vote on, if you're just school personnel, you don't have like you're not like mandating, and you're not like, this is the policy for our school, then you can say what you've done and just leave it there.
Yeah, no, and actually that's good, because you're just expressing what you may have done within your own home, but you're not saying what has to be done within that particular organization,
right,
or in that school system.
Yes.
And so that is a pretty good way of addressing that particular question when it is asked to you. Yeah.
I
And then
think
as
you have
far
to
as
be careful about separating work from personal. So
You
if
do.
you're representing your school and you're representing your whatever organization you're a part of, the safest bet is to basically be a parrot and restate what the current policy is. But if you're
Mhm.
having a conversation, person to person, again, it's just sharing your personal stance and Dr. Um, both doctors were saying, but it's a thin line when you're in the workplace, I would say.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how these federal mandates. I know they're being questioned, they're being
Mhm.
challenged even in court. And again, we've even seen where mask mandates within schools. We're talking about children. Some of them have been upheld. Some of them have been taken down and then reinstituted. It's kind of a back and forth situation, and it really has been unfortunately politicized. And so hopefully it doesn't become to something to where our schools are, I'm sorry, our children are so affected by attending schools in person.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we haven't seen great breakouts in the schools like I was concerned about. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that. I know that was one of the
Well,
questions, but just go ahead. Dr. Gray.
we've seen some like just for the day to day, if the kids are sick, they need to get a doctor's note. They'll be out for the 10 days unless they can get a note saying that they're clear to go back. And sometimes they have like 10 kids that are out at a time if there's an exposure. So there may not be whole schools that have had to, shut down, but there have been different classrooms sometimes that can be affected. So
Mm,
there is still some effect on school attendance and continuity of learning.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, and
Rhonda,
for
go ahead.
California, they have we have a lot of vaccines that are mandated from K through 12,
Mhm.
and parents often will come in and say, I want the vaccines that are required for school, or if they have not vaccinated at all, they only start because they've been required for school.
Mm.
So, like you were saying, those mandates are pretty pretty powerful as far
Yeah,
as people kind of complying with vaccines, because most people don't want to do them, no matter what the vaccine is.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Rhonda Hayes, another consistent viewer. Thank you, Rhonda, for your question. Thank you for resending it. She says, "Are children ages 6 or younger, are their immune system stronger than adults?" Her friend and aunt, which is the caretaker of the 6-year-old, the mom and aunt was affected by the virus, but the child didn't get the virus. Is it because the 6-year-old's immune system was strong enough to fight it?
So, as far as being the immune system being stronger, I wouldn't say it's stronger. Would say that it's different. So, for children, especially before in the with the COVID COVID-19 strain before Delta, they were noticing that children weren't getting affected, and when they did, they didn't get affected as much as the adults did, and it had to do with the way that their immune system kind of processed it, not necessarily that it's stronger, or to say it into those words, it had to do with other components of their immune system. And still, it adults are more likely to have severe disease, or to be hospitalized and those type of things, and more likely than children. However, we're just showing that that number is not zero for children.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Got you. Thank you. Thank you. That does help. Hopefully, Rhonda, that answers your question. I have two questions as we continue to wind down here. Um, I want to talk about how can a person protect their child if he or she is ineligible for the vaccine?
Okay.
That's a question that I've been hearing a lot as we're preparing for the holidays in particular. But you want to start there, Dr. Graves?
Sure. So for protection for anyone that's ineligible would be to try to build a wall of protection around them. And so that wall being those people that can be vaccinated, that are near that child or with that child are vaccinated. And those people that, and then also to continue wearing masks in your public spaces, and of course hand washing, distancing, still remaining to do those things to protect those children. So we're
Mhm.
still recommending that children older than 2 years old are wearing masks when they're out, and that way you can protect those children in the manner that you can, similar to how when women are pregnant and are getting ready to give birth, we suggest that they get the Tdap so they can be protected against potential pertussis for their baby stake, and then also the people around them. And so the same works with if you're getting a vaccine for the flu, you're doing that to protect yourself so that you're not going to be as likely to spread to a baby or to a child. So it's still the same. It would be the same thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, great information. Um, Otis is asking another question. Thank you, Otis. I appreciate your questions today. It says, my school services a large population of Latinx students, and many are afraid of giving up info because of ICE.
Hmm.
Do you have any strategies to help get the message out to this population for this vaccination? And I know with you being out there in LA has quite a large Latino population. So I really want to hear a little bit from you, Dr. Graves, and from Stacy too, as to what message would you send, or what message in your case, Stacy, was it that finally resonated for you and my brother and for Brooke to go get the vaccine? So,
So for my Latinx population, many they do come to the clinic for their physicals and for just for general care, and so try to develop a rapport with them, and just teach them about, same as I would teach anyone else, about the importance of vaccines and just importance for protection and health. And with that rapport, they see that we're focusing on their health and their health alone.
mhm.
And that any information that we gather is for health, is for the health of their health, and then also just for any data that we need. If they understand that, then that is what that data is for. I think there's a level of trust that has to be developed, because that's I think the only way that message will be really taken in and understood.
Level of trust. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. Stacy, what do you want
I
to
think
add?
also someone speaking the language is important, because
Mm,
I do speak Spanish to my parents that are able to speak Spanish, and I think that also um, provides a level of rapport there also, that they're getting the information that they need in their language and by someone
mm,
that they trust.
absolutely. That's very important. Stacey, what did you want to add to that? What strategies worked for you to help in making that decision? And you're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I don't think there was a silver bullet. I think it was a combination of just information and time and comfort.
Mhm.
I will
Mm,
say that. I think, um, you know, we got to a point where we said, okay, I feel like I can trust the information that I'm
Mhm.
getting, right? I
mm,
Yeah.
think we were at one point in the beginning of this where we felt like, I don't know, every week things were changing. It was like, I remember when it was like masks aren't doing anything. It's basically like wearing a chain link. If it's not an N95, or if it's not a, medical grade mask, you might as well have a chain link fence over your face. But then
oh
I,
Lord.
I remember that being
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember certain things that, our wonderful Dr. Fauci said and had to walk back. And this is not one of those things where I think I have a lot of respect for him. And
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
think he was put in an incredibly difficult situation and he handled it very well.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it felt like the information was turning over so fast that we were having to keep up with the changes. And I think we got to a point where we felt comfortable that, okay, we feel comfortable enough, number one, that the medical community knows enough about COVID, not necessarily these vaccines that they've been working on, but they know enough about COVID now for us to feel comfortable with the information. Number two, there's been millions upon millions of people vaccinated. And this is where we are. And number three, this virus isn't going anywhere. And as a matter of fact, is mutating and is mutating fast. So I think knowing all of those things, and then as the information kept coming out, and I'll say this as well, first it was, well, we know the vaccine for a fact will protect you if you were to contract COVID from possible hospitalization. You may contract it, but it won't. It'll lessen the effect that it has on your body. And then as studies kept coming out, it's like, well, actually, it will make you less likely to transmit the virus. And you will, even if you do transmit the virus, you may have the virus in you at lower levels. So as all of that information kept coming out, we were learning more about it and going, okay, this makes perfect sense. So I would say it was just a combination of time, information, comfort level, and really us at the end of the day just wanting the best for ourselves and for our children.
And I just wanted to say that as pediatrician, then we have to have vaccine conversations all the time outside of talking about COVID-19, is that there's kind of a difference between anti-vaccine, like I'm not pro a vaccine of any kind, and then vaccine hesitant. And vaccine hesitant is I just need more information.
That's right.
Just please, I have these questions. My mind is open, but I still need some answers. And with that, and you're listening, you're learning, we're presenting information, then we can go somewhere with that. We can kind of we're in a learning kind of relationship, and able to have a conversation, and it's not like two people kind of talking at each other, or just like, I don't want to hear anything you have to say, because it doesn't matter what you're going to say. I'm still going to be in this position. And some parents do choose to say no after they've gathered all the information or they've heard the information, but you're still having an ear to hear, because it is your decision to make.
No, thank you. That is so important. We even discussed that a little bit, actually, during one of my last episodes. And I believe that's when my brother, Stacy's husband, was on. And we were just talking difference between anti-vaxxers and vaccine hesitancy. And actually, I'm going to promote that more, because I believe there's a larger pool of people who are in the vaccine hesitancy group than who are true anti-vaxxers. I really do believe that. And I do believe that it has to do with what you talked about, Dr. Graves, trust. You use the word comfort level, Stacy. I like that. And it takes time.
Sometimes people need time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Many times, as you can attest, Dr. Graves, we may want to do a particular regimen or treatment for one of our families or one of our patients. And then, I heard what you said, Dr. Shepherd. I'm just not ready yet.
Right.
And you just can't throw them away. Well, you need to get ready. No,
right. Yeah.
No, there's some hesitancy. And some of it has to do with seeing somebody who looks like them, who may understand where they are. Sometimes honestly, it may or may not make a difference. Because I know sometimes there's been people who look like me and I still don't trust them. Or they still could speak to me in a way in which I needed to be able to develop that comfort level.
Right.
So that's why I'm not always, well, you got to have a black doctor if you're a black person. Come on now. That's not true. First of all, it's going to be hard because only 5% of doctors are black anyway.
Right. That's true.
Right. So it's just not going to happen. So thank you. These have been some wonderful responses. We're getting ready for the holidays as we close out here. We're getting ready for the holidays. We're getting ready for Thanksgiving. We're getting ready for Christmas, and some big celebrations will be occurring. And so I want you just to speak to some steps. I want you both to speak to some steps to help people to remain safe as we go into the holiday season. Next week is Thanksgiving. Then 4 or 5 weeks after that will be those who celebrate Christmas. There's those on here who watch who celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, just a holiday season as it is. So why don't we provide some steps, some different things, and maybe even some repeats of what you said before. But let's just address this as we close out. Dr. Graves, you want to start first?
Sure. So with the holidays, we're still recommending that we were talking about that wall of protection. And I think that we'll just be still talking about that for the little ones that have not been vaccinated yet, to just make sure that those that are around them are vaccinated if that is what you're choosing to do. And then especially your gatherings, that you're limiting the sizes of them, and that those, if you're having those gatherings in your home, that people are vaccinated, wearing masks, that we're protecting our elderly, and that you're still being careful. Just because as we go into the holiday season, that also is an increase in just all viruses in general.
That's right.
So with that, that's going to help us prevent the spread of flu and other cold viruses, RSV, other viruses that cause illness in other people, in children. So just doing those things are going to just be helpful, just to keep everyone healthy throughout the holiday season. But especially our little ones and our elderly family members, let's be careful and do the things that we have been talking about: washing hands, being careful with mask wearing, especially if you're traveling from somewhere else, that you're keeping your mask on when you're inside. Even getting your COVID test. There's so many different COVID testing spots available that you can get your, you may have to pay for it, but get your rapid test before you're going visiting. Do those things. Those are things that are just kind of being to be considerate. And I've just thought of, we're better together. Let's kind of work together to do what we can to keep everybody healthy.
Absolutely. Thank you. And at some point, we're not going to talk about today. We're going to talk about these COVID-19 pills. We got
we can talk about another day.
we got to address these COVID-19 pills. That's not for today because they're not meant for children, I don't believe. So so we're not even going to go there, but we'll bring you back, Dr. Graves, after we have seen a little bit. But come on, Stacey, what are some of the guidelines that you would just say, to those parents out there? What are the things that you're doing to protect my nephew, your son?
Yes. So I would say I go back to November of 2019 when we were traveling for Thanksgiving. And that's before I had even heard of COVID-19. And I saw an abnormal amount of people in the airport with masks on. But that was also a really bad flu year. Both of my children got really, really sick with the flu at the beginning of 2020. And so I think those experiences combined with what we've seen with COVID-19 is, I don't know if I'll ever put the mask fully away. I'm going to be honest. That may be something I adopt just out of safety, out of an abundance of caution, especially, like in countries that already had really dense populations and really had something could break out any moment, like China, masks were very prevalent. So I feel like that's one of the things that we just may add into our, just into our toolkit. And it may be a long time before we ever fully release masks, depending on the situation that we're in. So definitely that. And, we was raised white, so we were always washing our hands. We weren't nasty. So I don't know where these people, oh my gosh, I just started washing my hands. So I don't know.
Wow.
Always washing our hands. So I don't know. It's like, before you do anything, go wash your hands. After you do that, go wash your hands. So
that's right.
Yeah. So I don't. To me, that was like I don't even know what we're talking about. Soap. Everybody was running to get sanitizer, and I was like, soap and water. Soap and water works. and we live in a nation where it's in abundance. So yeah. So but one thing that I did not expect even at the beginning of the pandemic, was masks. I never expected to come out of this going, maybe I'll just keep that as a part of just a part of our healthy habit, our healthy habits. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Oh man, this has been a tremendous time. Tremendous time. I'm looking at my brother who's been commenting, and he wants to talk about please wear your mask. No,
Wear your
I'm not.
Wear your mask, okay? It's so important.
Right. See, I was not trying to fuel into the foolishness now. You just
Hey,
It's
that
a
was
it's a perfect outro. I'm gonna be honest, that video is a
true.
perfect outro.
Lord. So again, thank you so much. This has been a tremendous, tremendous conversation. You see why we had to have Dr. Malika Graves on, noted pediatrician there in the great state of California. You see why we had to have my sister who was on. She did a tremendous job, and I'm
Yes.
thankful for both of them agreeing to be here tonight. And I want you, for those who've been watching, I want you to share this. Some people might have already gone to bed because it's a little bit later than what we normally do for Ask the Doctors. But I had to have these two guests today because of the information that they hold and the way in which they present it. It's not just the fact that they hold the information, it's the way in which they present it today. And I believe they present it in such a way that so many people will be affected positively by what we have shared. And so please, for those who are out there, you have small children, you have families who are going to be traveling, let them see this episode, and I guarantee you it will do them some good. Remember, Ask the Doctors is sponsored by Hope Health Systems, which is a large mental health organization in Woodlawn, Maryland. We'll do you some good. If you're in need of some mental health services, Dr. Graves talked about your child's in need of mental health services. You're in the DMV area, come on over. We'll do you some good. We'll take care of you. You can go to our website, hopehealthsystems.com. You can go there and we have our referrals right there where you can go ahead and sign up for services, and we'll get back to you as soon as we're able to. All right. Thank you once again, Dr. Graves, I'm going to say Dr. Stacy. Please stay put. All right. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you all. Please be careful. We'll have another episode. We might have come with another special edition for you like we did last year on gratefulness just before Thanksgiving. But there's been just so much that we have to be grateful for. So again, signing off, Dr. Jonathan Shepard here, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Awesome.